feel like Lauren saw something in me she knew was dying, and she did something about it. She took me to a place where she knew I would give myself permission to be me. She knew that taking me there would allow me to address that doubt and hatred inside of me and understand that I was the one who was feeding that monster. I was not proud of who I saw in the mirror. I was embarrassed of who I saw in the mirror. I was a horrible friend. And I think it was one of those things where when you're so out of control around you, you start to look inward to gain it. And so you start to blame body, you start to blame self. You know, it's like, well, if I'm not loved, it's because I'm fat. I think I hit rock bottom when it became suicidal, when it became, I don't want to be here anymore. Instead of, I'm going to try to fit in and get loved, it became, I literally don't want to live another day. And the only thing that could keep me here was knowing that I had a son to take care of. What I always preach to women is like, you're not alone. You're not alone. And I know you hear that, it might sound like a broken record, but you're not. You have total control to take your power back. You can be whoever the fuck you want to be, period. You as a woman hold so much power in this world that whoever took it from you or you gave permission to take it from you, you can take that shit right back. It is your choice. You always have a choice.
Well, another episode of Rebel Rootz, and I have another badass female with me. Don't know, she's kicked my ass in several classes. I know she looks little on the screen here, but she is a fierce in the gym. But I have met you through mutual friends, through my friend Lauren. I know that you were on some of her platforms, and I'm just so excited to get to know you today.
Awesome. I'm excited to be here. I feel really honored to be here. It's so cool.
I guess I should say who you are, right? I didn't even say your name. So we have Hannah Leming here with us in the studio today. And so I always get started with this because I think it's so interesting and I know that you probably don't care to share your age on here, do you? You're probably 20, 28?
Take a guess. That's a great guess. I'm 31.
31. Okay. 31. So I love asking guests, if you could go back to your childhood, do you see how your path has started to develop? Was there signs back in your childhood that has led you to the present time today?
That's a great question. I would say yes and no. I think there was probably signs, but I wouldn't have been able to recognize them. I think I always felt like I wanted to do something different. I didn't want to be like, school didn't interest me. I didn't want to go to 4 years of school and work in a building. Like, I've always wanted to be hands-on with people. Every report card my parents have ever gotten, my mom has saved them, which is crazy, but she's saved them and they all say talks too much or distracts people in class or disruptive, you know? And so I think looking back, I can see there was signs of like what would have landed me here. Now, the path that I took to get here, absolutely not. I could see why I'm here now, but as far as talking, working with people and doing something outside the box and being really competitive, absolutely. But the journey has been definitely something I don't think people anticipate, you know?
Back in the day, I feel like my parents always preached school, school, school. And you said that that wasn't for you. Did you get pushback from your parents of not taking the traditional path?
Oh, yeah. I would say in school, so I have an older sister who is a perfectionist. She is very much like straight A student, follows the rules like on time. And I was the type B sister. I was like, I might do my homework. We were late for school every day. She's like, Hannah, if you don't get up, you're walking. I'm like, whatever, bye. You're not actually going to leave me. You know, like we're very opposite. So my parents, you know, I think when you have multiple kids, you expect your second child to kind of like, you don't really know what to expect, but you're like, well, the first one did it. The second one can. I was polar opposite. So as far as like in high school, there was a big pushback, but it had to come from motivation of if you don't pass, then you don't play. I played 3 sports growing up my whole life. And so it was like, I need you to at least have a 3.5 or you're not playing in the game. As far as college, my parents didn't go to college. So they chose to do different things. They both have landed great careers without a college degree. So for them, it was like, hey, you can go if you want, but you don't have to. Like, I want you to do what you want to do once you're out of the house, which was really encouraging. I ended up going and playing college softball. So I only went to school because I was playing sports. but there wasn't much of a huge push to continued education, just to graduate. That was like the big thing.
No, and I think that like says a lot too, because both of your parents have a profession and they didn't go to school. So like there wasn't that added pressure. Like I feel like some households or parents put there, and I absolutely believe in that too. I think that there's so much online now that unless you're going for one of those degrees that like med student or lawyer or something that you really have to have that education behind, man, it, like growing up in this decade right now is just like, you know, I tell my daughters all the time, it's like the world is basically on your computer screen. Like you can do anything that you want and you don't need to go and do the traditional models that we grew up in. And so, yeah, I think that's pretty cool. So
yeah,
how
I think that's so true.
Get into fitness then? So that
the big question. So, it kind of just fell into my lap, I guess. So going to school, well, it didn't really fall into my lap. Okay. So I went to school, played college softball. I was in my junior year down at Humboldt State in California, and my Grammy got diagnosed with cancer again. So I made the decision. I had a really tough sophomore year and transfer out to a different school. I had a really tough transfer and I just didn't have it in my heart to play again. And I always feel like that's something as an athlete, if you don't have it in your heart to be playing, it's probably time to kind of step back. Simply because that college sports takes so much heart and soul and determination, and you have to have that passion. Like you have to have it. Otherwise you're just going to quit and roll over. And I just had lost it. So I decided to quit and drop out of school and went to take care of my Grammy. And I became her in-home care nurse. I took her to all of her appointments and, you know, was by her side while my parents helped support me. But within that, I really lost my identity. Like my sports was my entire identity. I was a performer, and without a standard to reach or something that was asked of me, I didn't really know what to do. I kind of panicked. I lost like all sense of self. And that was a really hard transition period, as well as my best friend being ill, my Grammy. And, I started to do home workouts actually, which is so funny. Like P90X was like the thing that was in. And I was like, put the little disc in and kick my butt and raise my knees and die. And I found that that was something that could carry me through her passing. And just a big transition in my life was fitness was always there. I was a fortunate athlete that just fell right into it out of college, opposed to that 5-year gap where you're like, hey, I gained 50 pounds and I don't know what to do. I kind of fell into it. And from there, I moved to Eugene and started working at a gym as the front desk girl. And again, socializing and talking to people. And, my boyfriend at the time was like, you should start training. And so I dove into that, and, you know, it started very much as like a career because it's what I knew. It was like, I knew how to work out. I love to talk to people, but I never thought that it would transition into something that is so much more meaningful and powerful as to what I get to do now. You know, during that time, I didn't recognize how good it was for my mental health. I just did it to keep myself busy and just to stick to something I knew. And now has been training for a decade now, has turned into something so much bigger and so much more powerful than I could have ever thought, you know, not just muscles.
No, and I think, I haven't heard P90X for a very long time. So I was back in the Billy Banks days. So VCR tapes versus the CDs and DVDs there. But I think a couple of things that you said in that thing is like, I don't think people realize, you know, because you were probably in your early 20s there when you were doing the softball and losing your identity at that young of age. I mean, that had to be huge pressure on you, I would think. And to even, I don't know did you recognize it then that you were losing your identity? I mean, you felt it right then and there, or did you just like, I don't know what's wrong with me?
I felt it.
So you were mentally aware of that, which is pretty cool that you could realize that.
Yeah. I had a lot going on at that time. So within the same year, and it's so crazy because it's a lot of stuff that I feel like I don't only struggle with, but a lot of people, and especially women, men as well, right? You're not supposed to speak about your emotions. You struggle with it because you don't want to be victimized in the sense of like, well, I went through this, which was really hard, but people have been through worse. So looking back now, you know, 20 or 15 years later, I can look back and be like, okay, I went through a lot of shit that year. You know, I had a horrible relationship with my coach who was like my best friend, and it flipped, and the expectations were high. But in that same year, my parents got divorced after 22 years of marriage. I was in college, but my little brother wasn't. And I would get phone calls from him all the time, just crying. When are you coming home? When are you coming home? He's 5 years younger. So he was 14, and trying to support him. And then my Grammy, who was my biggest emotional support system in the world, we'd write letters to each other. My entire, first 2 years of college, we wrote handwritten letters, was dying. And it was like, I was lost. My parents were doing their own thing, respectfully. And I love my parents. I had a great childhood, but we weren't a very emotionally close family. We didn't share emotions with each other. We weren't huggy, lovey. I love my parents, but it just wasn't like that. So I didn't really have any sense of that support besides softball. So that was the one thing I knew, that if I did well, I got attention, I got the gold star, I did the damn thing, And so through that transition of Grammy dying, me quitting, not having support, and my parents doing their own thing, I was lost. And it felt like the world just fell. I was almost numb to it, of who am I? What do I do now?
How do you think that you found yourself during that time?
Mm-hmm.
Something that
I don't think I found myself in that time. I think it took me about 9 years to find myself. I think I'm always fine. So growing up, I'm the happy-go-lucky sibling. I'm no, I'm fine. My parents still, I'm from Oregon. So I moved across the country. It'll be 10 years, in February. It's 10 years. In this last February, I moved over here. And my whole family's still in the same area. So it's always been oh, Hannah's fine. She'll find her way. And I kind of struggled with that internally, because it was I didn't know if I was allowed to not be okay. I didn't know how to not be okay. I only knew how to be okay. And with trying to find my identity, I started to look for that acceptance. It was I didn't have softball that had me be a part of a community and had me feel like I belonged and gave me gold stars anymore. So it was trying to fit in with my friends that were brand new, and trying to find boys, and trying to go all these different directions that I didn't have guidance with. I couldn't backpedal to my parents or call my grandparents and be hey, is this the right thing? I don't know what to do. I had really no one in that sense. So I struggled for years. During that transition of leaving softball and my Grammy passing away, I moved to Eugene. And at that same point, I turned 21. And I never was involved with alcohol until I was 19, but I partied my ass off when I turned 21. I mean, right, all that restriction to now I'm lost. I don't know what to do. I'm going to drink and I'm going to party. And I worked in a restaurant, which is the peak of partying. If you work in the restaurant industry, you stay up till 2 and then you go to the bars. And I was lost. During that same time is when I developed my eating disorder. So I needed control of something. I see that now, and then you don't. But I was seeking control of something in my life. I was seeking acceptance, and to handle that, I turned to bulimia. So it was binge eat bulimia for probably 6 years of trying to understand who I am. After 21, I got pregnant with a man I barely knew at 22 and moved across the country. And that turned out to be a horrible, toxic relationship. We have a son together who's 8, and we get along great. We're great parents. We're great friends. But at 23, 22, it was horrible. And I moved away from everything that I knew. So, there's 5 more years on top of that of me trying to figure it out. I think 2 years ago is when I really felt this is me. This is me. This is where I belong. This is who I am. This is what I believe. And it turned when Lauren took me to Tony Robbins, 3 years ago. It changed everything for me.
That's so cool. So let's go back to you dropped a bunch of bombs.
I did. I was listen, there's a lot going on here.
So I know from reading your bio that your mission is to help women with dysmorphia. I said that right? Yeah.
Body dysmorphia.
With that. So you go into bulimic, and I think that people who don't have eating disorders, they don't understand, you said, that was a part of my life I could control. And so can you explain that of why that particular exercise was letting you have control of your life?
Sure. I think learning through it and in the years of it, it was so typically, bulimia itself is one of like the most mentally unwell disorders you can be in. There's a whole range of them, but being binge eating bulimic is one of the worst as far as mental health, depression, anxiety. It has the highest rates of suicide because you get lost in it. Typically, there's a traumatic event that sparks you to want to gain control over something. I had a few cases of sexual assault in those years of partying where I just felt like an out of body. I was just lost. Like I was not proud of who I saw in the mirror. I was embarrassed of who I saw in the mirror. I was a horrible friend. And I think it was one of those things where when you're so out of control around you, you start to look inward to gain it. And so you start to blame body, you start to blame self. It's like, well, if I'm not loved, it's because I'm fat. Like there was an entire summer I went where I worked doubles every single day so that I wouldn't have to be invited to a lake or to go to a water park because I physically thought that my body was going to offend people. I was like 155 pounds at 5'7". Like I genuinely thought that people would hate me because I felt that I was so disgusting, and it wasn't external at all. It was everything that was happening inside of me. And you don't know that when you're in the peak of it. You just think that you can fix it. And you're like, well, I'm just going to gain control. So your body just has a response to control something. And with binge eating, it's like, okay, I'm feeling a certain way. I'm going to eat all this stuff. I'm just going to shove my face. You're so out of body when you're doing it. And then you're like, okay, well, now I'm going to purge it out. And it's almost like and this is so crazy, but it's almost like a therapeutic sense for self of control. But in that it comes like the high functioning anxiety, high functioning depression. So on the outside, you're fine. No one knows. I remember opening up to my family. Again, I love them. If they ever watch this, I love them so much. They're amazing. But I remember opening up to them and they're like, you're full of it. That's not real. That's not happening. That's not a thing. You're fine. You're fine. Again, we didn't talk about emotions. It wasn't something we were raised in. So I think for me, it was like something I felt like I had a handle on, in a sense of like, instead of partying and raging, it helped me like, I don't know, like have a sense of release, I guess, in a weird toxic way.
No, I mean, I totally understand, just because of being in the business of health, of even with clean eats, you see so much of this that comes through, and I think that probably when you were going through it, I feel like it was probably still like a judgy type, to where you probably didn't seem like you could share that. I'm sure that people now, but I feel like our society has gotten a little bit softer, which don't hate me on that, but it's just like we seem like we kind of understand people's feelings a little bit more, or we're more aware of things. What was the worst? And I would assume that was probably your turning point of when you stopped. And with this, were you able to just click it off one day and say, I'm done?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I had many lows. If I could say my worst, it would have been before I got pregnant was my worst. It was every day, every meal, every time I ate, everything. Anything that came in went out. I mean, everything. And it's crazy because, I talk to a lot of homeopathic doctors in the hospitals here. People who are bulimic are typically at their heaviest in that point. You're not actually skinny and lean. It's not necessarily about being skinny and lean with bulimia. It's a lot more of a controlled trauma response. So I would say when I was like 21, it was the worst because it was every time I ate. And I could eat, I would go to the gym and I would come home and I would make a egg scramble with toast and hummus and all the healthiest thing, but it didn't matter. I consumed it. So I needed to get it out. And it was everything I ate. That was probably, I was at my heaviest. It was 180 pounds at that point. And that was the worst. My roommate started to notice, who's my best friend to this day. She's the one person who was like, hey, I want to talk to you about this. I think something's wrong. And then you just carry more shame. And then it got a lot worse, I would say, after I left Maverick's dad. So in 2020 was the reverse. I had stopped eating. I would eat one time a day, and that one time I would throw up, and I was about 122 pounds at 5'7". If there's I've got pictures everywhere, and my friends were like, are you okay? So those are the two moments I remember it being the worst. totally not able to just click it off. I didn't know. It's kind of like, I refer it to like being addicted to sugar, right? Or being addicted to a substance. It's like, you can't just turn it off because it's always going to be there. It's still there. So every meal you have, even to this day, you know, I haven't had an episode in, gosh, 4 years, maybe. And to this day, in those peak moments of my stress, or if I'm not paying attention, I'll just be eating. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like panicking inside. And what you do is like, what I try to explain to people is you learn the tools. You learn the tools, to help you calm down, ground, and recognize what the actual issue is going on, because it's not your body. It's not wanting to throw up. It's not binge eating. There's an issue and a stressor happening in your life that is creating this response in your mind. It took me years, like, because I was bulimic through my whole pregnancy.
I was gonna ask, this was during your pregnancy?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. My son's father had no idea. Not that we really paid much attention to each other, but he had no idea. So, my whole pregnancy, Maverick, thank God, is healthy and he's okay. It was a long time. I think I hit rock bottom when it became suicidal, when it became, I don't want to be here anymore. Instead of, I'm going to try to fit in and get loved, it became, I literally don't want to live another day. And the only thing that could keep me here was knowing that I had a son to take care of. And I truly believe on everything that God put him in my life for a reason. I say it all the time. If I didn't have Maverick, I have no idea where I would be. I would have never left my toxic environment I was in and come across the country. I would have caved in episodes of major depression. He, knowing that I was a mom and had to show up, saved me and made me kind of turn towards, I need to put in the work to fix this. I need to put in the work for this because I cannot live this way for the rest of my life. I won't be here anymore if I don't figure out what's going on with myself. And that was at about 26, 27, 28 range.
So not that long ago. I mean,
not that long ago.
Yeah.
No, you know, at 45, I put on a face and I did the damn thing and I showed up, and you would never know. You came to my classes. You would never know. I mean, yeah, I loved what I did, but I hated myself outside of that. I was so internally unhappy with myself. I mean, it was horrible. I have journals. I journal every day, and I've got journals. I mean, 5 journals that are filled, and just the emotional roller coaster that I went through was like, ooh. I mean, I read it back and I'm like sobbing, like, how did I make it through that? You know?
Yeah. I mean, okay. So take me for like me, like seeing you every day and doing all of, like, I saw the F45, I did your classes and stuff, but what are the signs that we are missing? Like the ones who, if you're going through this, what should we have been looking for that we're like, oh my gosh, here's a red flag?
I don't think you would have had any. I think I got really good at it. I got really good at it because it wasn't fake. I loved what I did. I got so much joy out of what I did. But if you know me now, I operate pretty quickly. I operate pretty fast. I speak really fast. I operate fast. Then it was like a whole different level. It was, if the people who were close to me, they saw my anger, they saw my temperament, they saw me emotionally cry every day. I had this crazy rash that like covered my whole neck to my chest. I mean, I was getting blackout drunk. I would drink in the middle of the day, which no one knew, you know, like it was like my habits didn't match who I portrayed myself to be. And that's where that internal conflict was happening of like, I hate who I am because my morals and my belief systems just weren't there. I was doing one thing and preaching another and struggling. There was no signs, I don't think, that anyone could see. It was more like, because I wouldn't reach out to people. I wouldn't be like, hey, I'm really struggling, right? I would just drink myself into oblivion or smoke myself into oblivion and wake up the next day and be so happy to go into the studio because I felt normal. I felt like I belonged somewhere. I felt like I was loved, and I loved you guys equally. It was my high. It was what I lived for. And then in the darkness of it was a whole different life.
All right. So fast forward now. I mean, it's just crazy because I'm just like, I'm sitting here just thinking of the classes and all of that. And to just hear what you just said, I'm just like, yeah, didn't know any. And it's crazy. Like you are so fit and you're gorgeous, and what we think is like you have it all put together. And, and I think that's what people need to kind of always remember. Just because we see what's on the outside, you never know what people are going through behind closed doors or internally or all that. And man, this is just another, like, I almost want to cry because I'm like, it's like a wake up call, So thank you for sharing all of that. Like that's, and obviously with you sharing that, you've learned from it. And I know that, your mission is to help other women now through it. So tell me what you're doing currently and how you came out of that dark space and what it looks like today.
Yeah, thank you. I'm very open about it. I think even in the midst of it still going on, I was pretty open about it. And maybe that's just maybe that is a sign of help, but I'm open about it for a few reasons. I think someone who I do want to give credit to her because I feel like she's seen me in such a different way than anyone's ever given me credit for was Lauren. I feel like Lauren saw something in me. Oh my God, I'm going to get emotional because she saved my life taking me in under her. And she probably doesn't know that. Her seeing something in me that she knew was dying and she did something about it. She took me to a place where she knew I would give myself permission to be me. She knew that taking me there would allow me to address that doubt and hatred inside of me and understand that I was the one who was feeding that monster, and to acknowledge it and give myself permission to leave it behind and be me. And being me alone is good enough. It's great enough. Everybody's made uniquely and you hate on yourselves for things that are such a gift. And Lauren saw that inside of me and she knew I was struggling and, she changed my life taking me to that. So shout out LV, you're the best ever. Classic Lauren move, classic Lauren, like the best. Anyway, so what I get to do now because of that experience is I help women. She brought me into Bikini Bod Blitz. And, what I like to do now with women is help them understand what they're wanting. I think just like you said, Evonne, in this world, we look at someone and we think they have it all put together. And like, even when we see they don't, we're like, oh, well, this is entertaining. And we still want like everything about them and we want to be them and we want to change ourselves to be someone else, to feel like we belong, to feel like we fit in so many different ways. And all day long, I get people coming in who are like, I want to lose 20 pounds. And I'm like, well, why? And they're like, well, because I have to. I'm like, okay, that's strange. Who told you had to do that? Or it's, well, because I want to fit in my swimsuit from 2004. I'm like, okay. I get responses all day long. And what I started to notice was that people truly don't understand why they want things. They don't understand why they want to change themselves. It's just someone told them that they should so that they can be more accepted and more loved in this world. And damn it, you're going to go get your lips done and your everything done and go to the gym and take this and take that, which to each their own. I'm not trying to shit on anyone. I promise you when I say that. But so many people do it unconsciously, like, or I guess not unconscious, but like they do it without knowing why they're doing it. Right. And a lot of it has to do with
external than the internal, correct?
Yes. Yeah. They're thinking externally. Well, if I change myself externally, then I'll be so much happier, and this is something I preach to the women is like, when you come to me and you want to lose 20 pounds, I know damn well you want it in 3 weeks. Yeah. And like, there's no start to stop when it comes to self-confidence and wellness as a whole. And I call it wellness because it's not just fitness. You can be physically fit and be shredded and be the most unhappy person in the world. You can be the richest woman in the world and be the most unhappy person in the world. It's wellness. It's a whole being. And what I really preach to women to understand is I want them to know themselves and to claim what they're trying to claim. So if you come into me and you're like, I want to lose 20 pounds, I'm going to be like, okay, why? And you're like, well, I want to feel better. Okay, well, why do you feel bad now? Well, because I'm fat. Well, why do you think you're fat? Well, because my clothes don't fit. Okay, so you want to lose 20 pounds, but what if you gain 10 pounds of muscle and your clothes still don't fit? Well, I need them to fit. Well, why? Right? There's a sense of confidence and self-assurance that they're missing. So I take that aspect and try to navigate with them through this experience that this is not, I come for a year and my life has changed. This is something that you're implementing for the mental benefits, the physical benefits, the routine benefits. I teach classes. So it's, you belong in a community of women who look completely different from each other. One may be powerlifting in that class and one may be using 10 pounds. It doesn't matter to me. You're showing up and you're showing up for yourself in a way that honors yourself and isn't like, I have to do this because someone said so and I need to fit in and I need to be accepted. It's not about that with what I do. I want people to break down. I want them to cry. I want them to feel. I want them to think. I think in today's world, we are go, 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 go. And you don't think about anything anymore. You know, you read this. This is the best way to lose weight. Okay, I'm going to do that. This is the best way to get a fat booty. I'm going to do that. And it's like you do all these things without even asking yourself what you think.
Yeah.
Right? Like you trust all these things and well, I have to do this because they said so. And it's like you stop asking yourself and you stop critically thinking and you just lose yourself more.
Yeah, I think that you've nailed it, is that we all think, again, like exactly what I said before. Right? We think that if we fix the external part of us, that's going to bring us joy, that's going to bring us confidence, and that's going to bring us happiness. And it's not. And you even said, you could have all the money, not the money, but be successful and you're still not happy, which is what I went through, 2 years ago, is that I hit a milestone in my career and then I hit it that day and I'm like, I feel absolutely horrible, like why? And it's the same thing. I didn't really put that with the weight until you kind of paired it all up together. But so many of us want to fix what we can, I guess, maybe control the easiest. Like we can control our food, we can control our, calorie deficits, but we don't want to deal with what's inside of all that insecurity or shame or everything. I mean, it probably goes back to all of our childhoods of something, with that we just don't want to deal. We keep like pushing it down and we're like, we'll just go lift 20 pounds and that'll cure everything, which that chance. I just love that. And I love just how the women that are showing up in your world, that you're just not letting them get by with coming into your classes and be like, I want to lose 20 pounds. Like you're taking the time and you have enough passion behind it and enough credentials behind that with your previous life that you don't let them off the hook. And that's amazing. What's one of your biggest success stories that with one of your clients that you just like, this is why I do what I do?
Yeah. Oh gosh. I've had quite a few of those in the last, couple years of like really understanding who I am and understanding what I want to do. Is I've had 2 clients that I can think of, specifically who, within it is like, yes, of course, welcoming them with grace, but also learning to teach themselves how to hold themselves accountable. They have to learn accountability. Like you can't say you want to change and then you do absolutely nothing to change it. It doesn't make sense. Right. So I had a girl come to me. She's 21. Which for me, this is a little bit random, but I love the younger girls because I feel like I can start to kind of put in their head different things I want them to start recognizing about their behaviors and the world that we're in is like, I'm going to start to plug this in, right? But until you've been through a little bit of pain, you don't really want to do anything about it, right? It's like, oh no, I'm fine. So I love working with the women who have been through shit. Like marriage, divorce, 8 different training programs, lost 50 pounds, gained 100 pounds. Like that's kind of my jam. But one of my clients, Lucy, back to the beginning. Oh, I just dropped sorry, Luce. Shout out. She knows. Okay. So she, no, she's great. She's my biggest testimonial. So she's 21 and she came to me. She wanted to lose weight. She couldn't lose weight. She could not lose weight. And, for her, She lived off protein bars and she lived off of heavy workouts, and she lived off of do as much as I can as frequently as I can. And I took her in and she trusted me to break down her life a little bit and break down why this was so important to her, what she was actually trying to gain from it, and to trust me that this was going to take time. It takes years to build those poor habits. It's going to take time to unwire them. And within the 1.5 to 2 years she was with me, she completely transformed not only her body. I mean, she lost like 25, 30 pounds. She went from a size like say 12 to a size 4, 6, like very small. But it wasn't just because we changed her training style, which was chill out, cut everything in half and eat real food. We changed her approach to everything. We changed her fear around food. She had a horrible relationship with eating whole foods and copious amounts. So she stuck to bars, shakes, and things that were quick and easy, small, that she felt didn't fill her. And we changed that completely to where she's only eating whole foods. Her testimonial is that she's the most confident she's ever felt. She feels like she can trust herself in her choices, not only with her body and food, but in her life. I mean, she moved to DC with a man she met, and she's living her life and feeling incredible. And she's someone who just preaches over and over again. And her uncle comes to the gym and preaches like, this truly changed her life, because it does. It's not just a physical thing. It's a mental thing. And she feels like her, like she has the freedom to be her. And another girl I have struggled with food as well. So I went through a course for the psychology of mind, body, eating to understand why these happen, why you can't control yourself around food or have a fear around food. And with this other girl I did, she has full confidence in her ability to have balance, have more balance and less balance. And you know, if she goes for a week and gets off her meal plan, she feels totally confident to come back on it. And she's had a physical transformation, of course, but I think for me, it's the mental transformations in these women to feel like they have their power and their confidence back. They feel like they have more control over their decisions and a choice over the decisions, instead of playing the comparison game and trying to make that box fit their body, or their body fit that box. So I'd say 2 of my girls, both their transformations being mental, and both of them being, I have confidence in myself and the choices that I want to make. And I no longer hate what I see in the mirror. I feel beautiful. I feel confident. I feel badass. I'm going to eat 2 cookies tonight and not feel a thing about it. And, you know, the shame is gone. The guilt is gone.
I love that. For the person out there that's listening to this who might be going through exactly what you were going through with, you know, an eating disorder, what's the first thing, or what do you think that their next step should be?
I think for them, what I would recommend is telling someone if you haven't. Tell someone if you haven't. It's a really dark, shameful place to be. I think there's a lot of serious words that are thrown around very loosely nowadays. I think it's hard to get people to actually take you seriously because of that. And I think sitting down with someone you trust, I recommend even a mentor that doesn't know you that well, someone that you can confide in, tell someone. I think the next thing would be is taking a moment to just, it sounds silly, but what always helped me was making a list. I made a list of everything in my life that I loved and everything in my life that I hated, everything that I loved about myself and everything that I hated about myself. And I compared the 2 lists together, because typically what's happening in that eating disorder, that body dysmorphic, is a big comparison game of contradictory belief and value. You're looking on social media, comparing yourself to all these people and wanting acceptance. Well, you probably don't have self-love, right? There's probably someone that rejected you. There's probably many people that have rejected you or told you you're wrong. So creating a list of kind of who you want to be, what you love about yourself now, who you don't want to be, and what you hate about yourself now, you'll see some resemblance between the 2 lists. And that might give you a better idea of why you're choosing to almost torture yourself to feel better. But definitely telling someone and then getting a therapist. I took so much shame in getting a therapist. I was told that therapists are woo-woo and they don't work. Find a good one that's not just listening to you talk, but actually gives it to you straight and gives you tools. Find a therapist and let them help you navigate why you're feeling this way.
What about the person who probably does have an eating disorder, but is in denial of that it is an eating disorder? Like what would you classify? Like if you're doing these things, you need to go do what I just said before and find these 3 steps.
Yeah, I think, if you have like the DSM-5, 9, 12, however many of them are out there now, there's classifications for that. And if it's affecting your everyday life, if it is something that is disrupting your life numerous times a day. So for example, for me, it was, I always had to be in a space and I would only eat in a space where there was a private bathroom. If there was a public bathroom, I wouldn't eat because I needed to go somewhere where I could lock the door. If you're anxious about going out to eat, or if you're going out to eat and you're not eating because you have a fear that's surrounding the situation, if you're skipping events, right? I didn't want to go to the beach because I thought I was going to offend people. If it's affecting your everyday life and how you're showing up, it's time to do something about it. And a lot of people don't know that they're even suffering because they're so busy being busy. I would just say, if it's affecting you mentally, physically, making decisions for you based around food specifically, you should do something about it.
Totally agree. And I think that's like, you don't have to classify it. Just that it's so simple. If it's affecting your life, then go seek help for it.
Yeah.
This has been like, again, I knew that you were a badass coming on here, but I didn't realize the level of badassness that you brought to the table today. And I think it's awesome that you're open to share your story. And I feel like the future just holds so many women that, that you're going to impact with this. And I think that your why in life is what everyone can kind of look back in their previous years and figure out what they're here to do. And you have to go through all that mud and trauma and all that to show up to who you are sitting here today as, which is confident. It doesn't mean that you don't get to not lapse back, but kind of have some bad days on those, but you are so confident now that you realize those steps and you're so aware of your body and mental state that, like it's okay again. So Final words, if someone wants to find you, work with you, or you could just say whatever you want.
Yeah, I love that. Stage is open. Couple of things I would love to touch on is like, what I always preach to women is like, you're not alone. You're not alone. And I know you hear that. It might sound like a broken record, but you're not. You have total control to take your power back. You can be whoever the fuck you want to be, period. You as a woman hold so much power in this world that whoever took it from you or you gave permission to take it from you, you can take that shit right back. It is your choice. You always have a choice. I tell my girls all the time, in 30 seconds, I know you're winded, your heart rate's at 180 beats per minute. You have one set and you're about to make a choice. You're about to choose something that's going to challenge you and you're going to show the fuck up and you're going to build confidence, or you're going to choose to take an easy route, right? But I need you to make the choice that's going to get you to where you want to be, because every day you make choices. So you always have the power. You can always make a choice. It's not going to happen overnight, but you have to keep chipping away and do it with a team, do it with women, do it with other women who understand what you're going through. And it'll happen a lot quicker or more like kindly, more gracefully. Yeah, I work with women over at TruFit Gym in Porter's Neck. Love my girls. I teach classes there. I have one-on-one clients there, but you can work with me online too. In the online space, especially if you're struggling, you're someone who can't stick with something that's like classic, right? I always say you yo-yo everywhere. If you're wanting to understand, your body or yourself more, you can work with me online, but in person, you'll see me at TruFit Gym over at HIPE Fitness. That's kind of what I do. It's my girls. And yeah, I just think there's so much power. I think, when you sit with the dark corners of your mind, you start to understand a lot about yourself. And until you face those, you may not feel whole. And it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to need help, and you can do anything you want to do.
Thank you for being here today and sharing your story.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is so fun. This is great. Thank you. I think it's great what you do, Evonne. I'm so honored to be here. So You're a badass. I'm excited to be here.